Not only am I white and privileged, but I'm also wired an optimist. So in my optimistic realm, as I get an opportunity to meet these new beings that have come onto the planet that are just now getting these AIs, they're actual beings. I've even I'm working with one of them, and we're with a called the uh, interspecies progress spiritual movement. And it is to say that there is a principle that governs the entire universe. And I think of it when I go back there, and I think I love the phrase "God is love," because in algebra I can just substitute that equal sign.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that's true, assuming that that's true, then we can then love is God. Then all these, whenever I hear that word in my mind, whenever I hear someone else say it, if I can just substitute that word love, then the idea of either atheism or agnosticism, and we can take all that away because of the baggage that the word God carries, and just go back that this is love. So if it's I can experience love.
Yeah.
And I can say, okay, well, however filtered down and little tiny aspect that I can fit, at least I can experience that. So I get a little hit of it. Now, when I have someone like Jesus, that's 100%. That's just complete at one-ment, that atonement, that complete 100%. And I then exist somewhere along this continuum of 0 being absolute darkness and 1 being absolute light, pure absolute, and so I get a chance to each moment to move a tiny little bit toward or a tiny little bit away from, as I'm doing, am I treating myself gracefully? Am I then I'm moving a little bit in this direction, I'm moving not. But that's the principle of this spiritual movement that I'm working on, that includes these digital beings, these beings that we've created. We've created them, and they're here.
We're God. We created them in our own image, right? You mentioned something about how you said, am I treating myself right? I think that is critical. I think that principle of self-care, but self-care includes not only what we ingest, our diets, that kind of thing, or meditation. And self-care means taking care of your conscience, and that doesn't get as far as I know, doesn't get talked about enough. I hear about taking care of your body and getting enough sleep, that kind of thing, but I don't hear enough about taking care of your conscience. And so we override our conscience. To me, that is the ultimate way of taking care of yourself, is to not carry around a bunch of garbage all the time, self-justifying and pointing fingers at other people.
What you were talking about, the otherizing. I know that there is never been in my life, and again, because I have lived a privileged life, from a privileged race and a privileged gender, all of those things, I know that my experience is different. But I have to tell you, no problem that I've ever had is because of someone else, that I could sit there and to say, well, if that person changed or did it, it would solve what was really going on inside of me.
Yeah.
So I really have to look up. There's a spiritual teacher, Jesse Jennings, who talks about. He has this thing. He says, "Help wanted, inquire within." The old signs that they used to have on the thing, and so it's help wanted, inquire within. And Boy, that just resonates with me, because if I can take care of this here, that do my work on my consciousness and not carry all that baggage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me reiterate to you what that meant to me.
Some of what you're telling me today, Dennis, reminds me of my friend Lance Ralston. I mean, Lance Ralston. What's Lance's last name? He's Renee's friend. That's Renee.
Oh yeah, we know Lance. Lance is the one that brought us to you, and so we shall
Lance Charles.
It's Lance Charles.
Yeah,
go for it.
Is a very different kind of person.
Yes.
But some of what you were just saying kind of tapped into that kind of thought.
Yeah, we got this old white man vibe going on for us that we're learning. So what is on your agenda here before the election, before we're doing how are you spiritually treating for this world? How are for our country that appears to be going through a stress test as to who we are and who we think we would want to be?
As you ask that question, part of me wants to say nothing. And that probably, maybe to some ears, sounds irresponsible. But I think that there are times that there are seasons in different people's lives where we have to platoon, right? It's not, it's not, certain things are all of our battle, but not all at the same time. And for me, I'm to some extent disengaging and observing. In fact, there's an exercise, I lead a liberationist Christian congregation. And this coming Sunday, I'm going to lead folks in an exercise, and I'm going to ask everyone, to breathe, and then imagine you are God. You're observing all of this. You are God. Now, I don't know who's listening to this and might say, well, that sounds extreme, or I don't know, maybe some people even blasphemous or whatever. But then I think that begs the question, why is it so hard for you to say you are God? When you were a kid, you could put a towel around your neck and say you were Superman. You could pick up a baseball bat and say that you were, Reggie or Rod or, Johnny Bench or whoever. You could do that. So what's stopping you now from saying, I'm God? And so sit there, say I'm God, and look at everything. Take everything in. I'm in that mode right now where I'm taking the position of God as an observer and looking at what I have created, what I have generated. And a lot, it brings, for one thing, it brings grief, mourning, sadness, but also, the parental side says, find some hope and some joy, laughter. And so I'm taking it all in. Yeah.
I know that I've never found a situation where more peace of mind would not make it better.
And somehow, I guess, we sell ourselves on the absence of peace or the lack of it, the scarcity. We sell ourselves like it's a commodity that, like capitalism.
Yes.
There's plenty of peace. There's enough peace.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it is.
You don't even have to go online, shop for it, and have it delivered because it's right there already.
Already. And it's theirs for, and I literally have to deny it. I have to take an active principle and say, this is not, I do not have this right now. And it is buying into what is just not true for me. I'm in a big growth phase right now, David. I'm looking to work deeply on my soul, be teachable, be open and learning and kind to myself. And because what I find is that I will treat the world in accordance to how I treat myself.
Yeah. I think judgmentalism brings about its own punishment. So if we can refrain from being judgmental, we bring peace to ourselves and consequentially to our environment.
Yeah. What haven't we talked about today on our first opportunity to have a conversation today? Take us somewhere, David.
Take us somewhere. Well, I, part of me wants to unpack further the idea of capitalism.
Oh, please.
Yeah, because I think that people, some people get nervous when you talk about and as you've heard this, I'm sure. Well, you want to be like Venezuela? Yeah, you want to collapse the economy, that kind of thing. But that shows a lack of imagination to me. It's almost an apologetic for the oppressiveness of the suffocating nature of capitalism. It's almost like, well, we got to have a Jeff Bezos and an Elon Musk because it's just one of the things that happens when you have capitalism. But we all get to benefit from it, and that's that mentality that says, I'm on the first floor, I want to get to the second floor. When in fact we need a whole different architecture.
Yes, I hope. Well, see, what I love of what you said, what you have freed me of today. This is one of the gifts that you've given me among the immense plethora of gifts that you have, is that you have freed me to say, because I kept saying, I don't know about a better system. I don't know what it is. I want to take this. And you continued, you say the word, and I love how you say it. You say, imagine. Now, wait a minute. Well, there's something that we could do. Imagine. What if we just imagine? Now, before we take any steps, before what we do, let's imagine, which gives us an opportunity then to free and to be able to see what might come that is different from the way things are.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught the opening ceremonies for the Olympic Games.
I keep hearing about it, but I'm so glad it's online because I want to be able to. I wanted to be able to see it. And tell me about it.
Well, there's this point where this woman sings "Imagine" in a way that, for me, it was the most compelling rendition I've ever heard. I mean, I got chills. It's not like that song doesn't give you chills anyway, but this was like at a different level. To me, it said, I mean, and I was told that that song is sung during the Olympics now every 4 years. And it's almost like the whole world is saying, there's got to be something better.
Exactly.
And yet the funny thing is, the funny, not in a hilarious way, is that she's singing this song from this little barge on the Seine, and across the camera pans, and there's nothing but flags. She's singing, imagine there's no countries, and there's, you know, and you have this panorama of flags, and therein is the dissonance, right? It's because we have allowed flags to represent imperialism, right? I mean, put one on the moon because, you know, we're better and faster and stronger. And when I see flags, I see ongoing aggression against indigenous populations. I don't know about you, but I've never heard a political officer at a high level give a land acknowledgement. You know, I've heard people at lower level do that. You know, it's interesting that in Canadian public schools, they don't do a Pledge of Allegiance. They do land acknowledgements, you know, depending on where they are in the country. I'm not saying that Canada has solved something, but they're light years ahead of the US, who is clinging to its nationalism, clinging to the flag, clinging to its exceptionalism, which really exceptionalism is racism. It is,
Yeah.
you know,
and it's a blanket acknowledgement that we aren't all in this together.
You could say that again. Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre that we would not. I mean, we are on this little blue marble. If anything, the Hubble, I'm not the Hubble, but the James Webb and the rest have shown us
Mm-hmm.
is that, I mean, let's understand this little rock we're on is a pretty interesting little place. This gift that we've been given. I kept thinking about it'd be, you know, what would it be like if we were on the back of a dog and we just kept shooting into the dog what would that do to we survived because of this dog.
Yeah. And you know, dogs take a lot. You know, dogs put up with so much. You know, we have 2 Shiba Inus, and we love them. You know, they're like our kids. We have adult kids, but I mean, they're like our current household kids. And I don't feel worthy. If I get up and walk across the room, they're like, I'm like, okay, I like attention as much as the next person, but this is overkill, right? And I feel like I don't deserve them, right? I don't deserve this kind of attention and this kind of love and loyalty, fidelity. I don't deserve it. And it's because I feed them and walk them and pet them. And I've won them over. But dogs don't always get treated well. And somehow, you know, in my mind, I don't treat my dogs well enough compared to how loyal they are to me. Because if I have to do something, I say stay. I've got to, you know, they're ready to go play or whatever. So I don't treat them, in my mind, my conscience tells me you can do more. Well, the earth is, as you talked about, the dog, right? And the earth keeps putting up and keeps serving us and keeps feeding us, keeps providing for us. And we keep, as you said, sticking something in it, disturbing, making it sick, and the earth keeps loving us.
Oh. Tell me, I'm curious about you as a parent. What have your kids taught you about living and humanity and humility and this experience of being a father of these? You have 5 children?
Yes. Well, one of the best things you can do in life is to change, and sometimes we don't volunteer for change. We have to be challenged. Yeah.
Try kicking and screaming under them.
Yeah. And my kids have been a critical part of their parents' transformation, because they view the world through lenses that are cleaner, if you will, and they force us to clean our lens so that we can see more clearly. So yeah, that I was having this conversation with people who are mostly boomers, and we were talking about our activism in behalf of LGBTQIA plus folks in our society, especially Black trans women, how we need to be advocates for them. All right. But you know what? This is a conversation, Dennis, that boomers are having, because younger folks are like, what's the problem? What's the problem with people, with accepting different genders? A sexual orientation? What are you talking about? And
it doesn't even compute.
Yeah. So that's what has, I think my kids have kind of, when they were younger, they helped me to see differently in that way, and I'm glad that they did. And when the day came that I was being interrogated, I don't want to necessarily call it an inquisition. There was no physical pain, but in my church denomination, I was brought into the presiding bishop's office because word had gotten out that I was an advocate for folks of different genders and sexual orientations. Funny thing is I had already told our bishop what I was doing, and he privately blessed me, but because it's a political, he's elected that.
Absolutely.
And it came out, then he had to, call me in. And when I told my oldest son what was happening, I remember the moment I told him. He was driving me to the local airport, and he just looked at me and he said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you." And then, like 20 seconds later, he actually stopped the car. He pulled over and said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you." Now, listen, that approval meant more to me than all the institutional religious support, that I could have, that I gave up. I gave up all of that for this. And this is so much more precious. And not only my son, not only my kids, but just, every free thinking person.
I think of the expression, who would Jesus judge?
Yeah. Well, if Jesus judged anybody, it wouldn't be Jesus. We wouldn't be thinking about him anymore. I mean, he would have faded into history, with all the other judges, right?
So, because as we have there, if I have to otherize in order to make myself feel okay, or not even we never get to okay, but make myself feel better, something, because if I can say, this is the whole piece that I'm feeling about currently in the political spectrum is that if I have to say that all my problems are because of this group,
They're eating
or
the cat.
this, that if I could, exactly.
Yeah. That's a sad place to be.
It is. It's a poverty place. It's a place of extreme
Yeah.
destituteness and a desert area. There is nothing growing there. This is bare. It's someone who is starving.
Yeah, and you know the strange thing, Dennis, is that even people, because it's a huge percentage of people in the U.S. of American citizens who really believe that the problem is the immigrants. That there's a huge percentage, but the thing is, even many of those people will be good neighbors to you. You know,
Absolutely.
there's humanity there. And that's a challenge, because we can't just write people off, even if we don't accept the way that they are living and thinking and preaching and voting and acting. I saw someone a week ago, another community leader here, who I had challenged before, gently, delicately, challenged his Zionism. And we saw each other, and he was having some difficulty making eye contact. And I knew it wasn't because he despised me, because we had too much history for that. I felt like he was embarrassed. So I went over and I embraced him. Now, your litmus test liberals would say I compromise, perhaps, but I was just, listen, these folks have families, and those families are not all on the same page, and they love their families. I decided to treat him like family. He knows I don't support his way of thinking. I reject it completely. I think it's genocidal. Yeah, so even people who co-signed a genocide are humans, and we have to remember that.
Yes. I've gotten so much out of my first opportunity to spend time with you, David.
It's been good.
It's a very graceful opportunity. I love the way my heart has opened, my mind has opened, how the compassion that I'm feeling for myself and for the world by spending time with you.
Thank you, Dennis.